Our African American History Initiative programming is generously supported by Wells Fargo. A crucial aspect of our commitment to inclusivity is reflected in the accessibility measures implemented across the Missouri Historical Society. We provide resources such as wheelchairs, sensory kits, braille binders, large print labels, and they're all for free at the information desk of our 3 locations. Our exhibits are designed to be accessible for individuals with disabilities, incorporating closed captioning and ASL interpretation for video elements, audio description recordings, touchables, accessible pathways, and considerations for lighting, noise levels, and high contrast. In our ongoing effort to promote disability inclusivity, events like today's serve as a platform to raise awareness and showcase the talents and contributions of individuals with disabilities. We express our sincere appreciation to the Starkloff Disability Institute for sponsoring today's program. At the museum, we offer most of our programs to you for free, and this is in large part thanks to our sponsors such as Starkloff and to our members. So if you are an MHS member, we greatly appreciate your support, and if we're not, we hope that you will consider becoming one today. Additionally, following the event, we'd appreciate if you would fill out one of the evaluation surveys that you received. These surveys help us to continue to create top-notch programming for you. Now I am honored to introduce Deb Bush, who is going to present her musical talent.
Well, good evening, everyone, and let's give Deb another round of applause. That was beautiful. So, my name is Rochelle Carruthers, and I'm the director of the I have my own fan club. Thank you very much. But I'm the director of the African American History Initiative here at the Missouri Historical Society, and I just want to acknowledge all of you all for coming. I'm going to describe myself like Dara did. I didn't think to do that, but I'm also a Black woman. I have a little tight fro. I have a black turtleneck on with a gray sweater with, black sweater with gray stripes. So AHI strives to be inclusive. The initiative is the African American History Initiative, but we go by AHI just to keep it simple. But we're basically here to share Black stories, and those stories include everybody, right? So we're super inclusive, looking at gender, race, ethnicity, and also ability. So we do several programs, at least since I've been here since March, around ability. Tonight is a big one, of course, and you guys get the honor to be here at our last Black History Month program. So let's give ourselves a round of applause for that. Back in July, we had a Disability Pride Night, so that was really cool. And then Hannah, LA, woohoo! Hannah's got a fan club too. Was a panelist when we had a one-day symposium last year, and it was called "Injustice and the Built Environment." So we're also always thinking of ways to how we can be inclusive and welcome everyone. So with that, I am going to introduce our moderator. So Pamela King is an inspirational speaker. She's an executive coach, business consultant, and bold goals strategist. She serves as a champion of hope with over 25 years of leadership experience in various sectors. Pamela is a certified personal and executive coach with a master's in education and a bachelor's in human resources. Pamela's story goes beyond her professional accomplishments as an Iraq veteran, sexual assault survivor, and breast cancer warrior. She has triumphed over the shame associated with her post-traumatic stress disorder. She is also relentless in her determination to thrive while living with macular degeneration and the challenges caused by her breast cancer treatments like lymphedema. Pamela uses her unique perspective formed through the lenses of her intersectional identities as a Black woman, disabled veteran, and super survivor to serve as a beacon of resilience. She's currently using her combined experiences to transform the lives of people with disabilities by serving as a board member of the Starkloff Disability Institute. Without a doubt, Pamela King is doing the work she was called to do, and she is unstoppable. So with that, let's give Pamela a round of applause and welcome her to the stage. Thank you.
It is bright up here. Good evening, everyone. It is definitely a pleasure to be with you this evening and to be able to facilitate and moderate this very important conversation. I used to think I was not disabled enough. I wasn't broken enough to be a part of this community. But through the Starkloff Disability Institute Career Academy, I learned that I am very much a part of this community, and this community is a part of me. And at some point in our life, we will all be a part of this community, whether we realize that now or not. And without further ado, what I would love to do now is to introduce to you our panel that will help us understand and be able to share their experiences as Black people living with disabilities and how that has shaped their lives and helping us understand the Black history and the intersection of disability in the disability rights movement. And so first, I would love to introduce to you Tiana McGaw, a senior level paralegal with 20+ years of experience providing legal assistance regarding criminal, personal injury, and traffic law, including workers' compensation. She has a proven record of nurturing constructive relationships with individuals, civic and business entities to fulfill her goal of meeting the needs of her community. Her recent endeavors include being elected the first African American to serve as National Women's Political Caucus Missouri president, co-founding the Missouri Attempt, a St. Louis nonprofit, and currently working as the organizing and advocacy specialist at Paraquad and the state president for the Missouri Women's Political Caucus. Tiana is knowledgeable of health, education, legal, and social issues as they relate to the residents of Missouri. As an above-the-knee amputee, disabled person who Shriners Hospital helped as a child, Tiana knows firsthand how important it is to have access to a quality health care, especially to marginalized communities. Access to education enabled Tiana to achieve her career as a paralegal, assist others, and provide for her family. She is an advocate for women out there, and so Tiana is sitting at the edge of the table to your left, to my right, with the green shirt on. Next to her, we have Rush Wilkerson. Rush has been working with Paraquad since May of 2022 as the Youth Services Employee in Public Policy Department. Over time, he has advanced to become the Adaptive Technology Specialist, working with their youth and family services, public policy, and administrative assistant, providing sex education for youth and adults with intellectual disabilities. Rush assists with ADA and peer mentoring to help raise disability awareness. Rush Wilkerson has also gained a lot of real-life experiences after suffering a spinal cord injury in 1999. However, as an adaptive technology specialist, that has helped him to improve his quality of life. And now Rush is a certified mental health first aid for youth and adults and sex educator, and seizes the opportunity for first aid in youth adults, and is currently working on his certification for ADA as an ADA coordinator. Rush has recently been appointed to serve as a member of the Advisory Council on the Disabled for the City of St. Louis. Ladies and gentlemen, Rush Wilkerson. And the last shall be first. Last but not least, we have Dr. Grove, Dr. Joe Grove. Dr. Joe Grove's formal education includes an associate's degree in nursing from the South Suburban College in Chicago, Illinois. Later, she returned to college for her bachelor's degree in health Science from Stevens College in Columbia, Missouri. A few years after that, Dr. Joe earned her MBA at Fontbonne University in her hometown of St. Louis, Missouri. A few years after that, in 2020, she earned a PhD in higher education administration from the University of Phoenix online. Professionally, she has worked in higher education for more than 25 years, with the majority of this time being spent as the Director of Admissions and Enrollment Management at several Midwestern universities. During her tenure in higher education, Dr. Joe also taught undergraduate classes as an adjunct faculty member. The online classroom is a fantastic place and blessed her as she has been legally blind for over 40 years. And through this, she was still able to function with moderate difficulty on her computer and uses specialized software for the blind and visually impaired. Currently, Dr. Joe is kind of retired and volunteers with several organizations dealing with blind and visually impaired. She is a member of the accessibility community at the Missouri Historical Society, the Lewis and Clark chapter of the National Federation of the Blind, the St. Louis chapter for the Foundation Fighting Blindness, and the Fontbonne University Alumni Board. Please welcome Dr. Joe Grove. And now that we've gotten those formalities out of the way, it is now time to have a very deep and an important conversation around the reason we are here tonight, which is to talk about Black history and the disability rights movement. And so to begin this discussion, we will be looking at several key figures in the disability rights movement that are part of the Black community and how that has shaped us, as well as looking at the statistical influences and how those numbers shape us. And then at the end, we will invite the audience to ask questions as to what questions you have for the for our panel members as it relates to Black history and the disability rights movement and how we move forward together. Are you ready? All right. Beginning with this, we have a photo, we have an image on our slides here of several key members of the Black community that have shaped the civil rights movement. And within that, we have Johnny Lacey. Johnny Lacey was an advocate for independent living who tackled ableism within the division of the Black community, and even fighting racism within the white enabled disability community. We also have Fannie Lou Hamer, and we'll come back to her in a moment, but she was a women's rights activist, the vice chair of the Freedom Democratic Party of Economics, and was heavily influenced the political arena for Black people with disabilities. We also have Brad Lomax, the Black Panther, one of the Black Panther co-founders as it relates to introducing them to people with disabilities and leading the 504 sit-in 1977. Following that, we have Leroy F. Moore Jr., who is the founder of Crip Hop Nation and leading the National Black Disability Coalition. And then we have also Barbara Jordan. Barbara Jordan, as we all may be familiar with, she helped to remove educational barriers for Black people with disabilities, as well as her fighting her own justices as she suffered from multiple sclerosis. And so these are some of the influences that have shaped Black history as it relates to the disability rights movement. But now I'd love to ask our panel members, beginning with Tiana. Tiana, I'd love to ask you about your relationship to Fannie Lou Hamer, and what are some of the historical figures and intersection in Black history and disability rights that have helped and shaped your views?
Thank you, Pam. Good evening. First, I'll start off with, I don't know how many of you knew, but Fannie Lou Hamer had a disability. There's an author, Keisha M. Blaine, a professor of African Studies and History at Brown University, who wanted to highlight Hamer's disability in her biography. It was called Until I Am Free, which was published in 2021. Blaine notes that many people with disabilities reached out to her after reading the book to tell her that they did not know Hamer had a disability, and learning that she was able to accomplish so much while living with the disability brings them a sense of pride, encouragement, and empowerment. Hamer survived polio as a child, which left her with a permanent limp. At the 1964 Democratic National Convention in Atlantic City, she testified about a brutal arrest and beating in Wyona, Mississippi. Hope I pronounced that right. That worsened her limp and left her with a permanent kidney damage and a blood clot behind her eye, all because she was attempting to register to vote. I found out she was my grandmother's aunt in 2016 and started to read more about her. I began to realize my advocacy for voting rights was in my bloodline. It started me to dreaming about her, and I get goosebumps often when I think about that I am still fighting some of the same fights that she organized and fought back in the day. She organized the Black vote. I joined the National Women's Political Caucus in 2010. I kept showing up when I was the only Black person in the room. Today, I serve as their state president, an organization that my great aunt, Fannie Lou Hamer, was founder of. Talk about kind of weird, right? The organization recruits, trains, and elects women from all races or people that identify as a woman from all races, ethnics, that believe a woman should have the right to choose what she does with her body. I want to share with you tonight that I've also looked at other people from history that had disabilities, and I wanted to share a little bit of information with you. I know that Hera Belafonte has dyslexia. Maya Angelou has selective muteness because of sexual assault as a child. Harriet Tubman had epilepsy. Simone Biles has ADHD. And Muhammad Ali, Parkinson, is dyslexia. Thank you, Pam.
Thank you very much, Tiana, for sharing those facts about historical figures with us as it relates to the, key figures in the Black community and their activism and your direct connection to Fannie Lou Hamer. I'm curious to hear from Dr. Joe and Rush. Maybe Dr. Joe, you would answer first. What does it look like to be disabled in America, to be a Black disabled person in America?
Good afternoon or evening. Well, to answer your question, it's not good. Being Black in America puts one strike against us. The greater society likes to view us in a negative way, most of the general society. Second strike is that we have a disability. And people with disabilities, persons with disabilities, are viewed as being disadvantaged or not being smart or can't learn. In fact, in the early 1800s, persons with disabilities, especially the blind, were put in asylums and called idiots. That, I believe, that viewpoint, that attitude has persisted in some ways until today. We are still often looked at as if we are not smart, we don't know what we're doing, we can't learn, and none of that is true. My colleague mentioned Harriet Tubman. Everybody knows her history, but she suffered a head injury when she was a young woman. And as a result, she became visually impaired. It is amazing that with visual impairment, she was able to do all of the things that she did. I think that's enough.
Thank you, Dr. Joe. Rush, what about you? What does it look like? What is it like to be Black and disabled in America for you?
Being Black and disabled in America looks differently depending on your disability. I have several disabilities, one visible, the use of my wheelchair. The other is an invisible disability. I have a learning disability. I was taught as a kid, if I ever got pulled over by the police, to let them know up front that I have a learning disability, just in case they give me multiple orders and my answers come out as incorrectly. Or if they ask me questions, my answer just doesn't make sense. Being Black and disabled in America, I am faced with many biases from different people, including Black people, without them knowing my situation. I am a relatively young Black male that uses a wheelchair. Can you guess what a lot of people think? Yeah, they think I was shot without them even knowing my story. I broke my neck doing gymnastics when I was a teenager. I am also stereotyped that I did something wrong or I'm responsible for my injury. Being Black and disabled in America means I have a lot of attitudes by able-bodied people making statements like, who wants to cripple? Or victim blaming. Or if I was in your situation, I wouldn't leave the house. And unfortunately, this is in the Black community too, that I hear a lot of this.
Thank you, Rush, for sharing your experiences and your story.
Very seriously. They can, and sometimes, especially people with disabilities, are rather not willing to ask the doctor or say, I need this test, or can you do this? They will instead just say, okay, and leave without getting what they need. You may have seen the commercial with Jabbar, who says that he has atrial fibrillation. However, he just wanted to let it pass. And many of us with disabilities let things pass. But my advice to you is speak up. Speak up for what you want, ask for what you want, and you're more likely to receive it. Now, another issue with healthcare is also the type of insurance that you have. I find that, and I have friends who, one had a heart attack, one had a stroke. And typically, the standard procedure after a heart attack or a stroke is to receive rehabilitation. The cardiac victim will need to go to the Center for Cardiac Rehab. The stroke victim needs to have occupational therapy and physical therapy. What I've seen in the last couple of years is that if your insurance is not of a certain type, they will not pay for cardiac rehabilitation. And so the person is sent home with medications and what have you, but they do not receive the cardiac rehab, which then allows them to maintain health. The stroke victim, typically the standard is that the occupational therapist and the physical therapist come to your house to treat you, especially the first few weeks that you're discharged from the hospital. The friends that I've seen over the past couple of years must go to where the physical therapists and the occupational therapists are, even though the stroke victim in particular may have difficulty walking or moving around or dressing themselves. So insurance is very important. I know that right now there's very popular insurances that are very cheap, $29 a month, and you've got insurance. The issue there that I would like you to remember is that with that type of insurance, If you're young and healthy, it's probably pretty good. If you're older and have disabilities or you're ill, those insurances may not cover everything that you need. So beware of that. In terms of education, well, you know, I'm an educator, and so I advocate for education everywhere I go. I believe that getting a college degree is the way to improve your status, your level of living, just many, many things, better jobs, if we can even get the job, but at least we can be competitive. There have been, as most of us know, many years in the early 19th century where we were not able to go to school. There's a woman named Everly Hairston. Those of you in the blind community might be aware of her. I was fortunate enough to attend a seminar with her last week. And so for an hour, she told us about her life. She was born blind and born on a plantation. And so she wanted, though, to be in a different place. She wanted a better life. And so she said that she kept asking to go to school. None of the schools would admit her because she was black and she was blind. So they weren't going to let her in. But she didn't give up. She kept trying, and over the span of her life, she managed to get her bachelor's degree and her master's degree. And she is very active with the National Federation of the Blind. Mm-hmm. There is one other person I'd like to mention. I hope I'm not taking too long. And that is, I just forgot who I was going to talk about.
We can come back.
But I will move on to employment. This is a really big issue. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, 36% of blacks with disabilities live at or below the poverty level. And what that means is, at least this was the case 2 years ago, if it's a household with one person, you'll get $12,000 a year. If it's a household with 4 people, you'll get $25,000 a year. Can you imagine trying to feed a family of 4 on $25,000 a year? You can barely pay your rent and utilities. And so it's important then, I think, because of those poverty levels, that we do everything we can to earn an education, go to college. I had a difficult time in college because I couldn't see very well. And as my vision continued to decline, I could see less and less. That's when I got the computer that talks to me. I used to be able to read what was on the computer, but now I have to listen to what's on the computer. And everything else in my house talks to me, which is really great, because otherwise I'd be lost. So getting an education, I advise everybody to do their best, move forward. I don't care what obstacles you incur, just keep moving forward, be determined, and be persistent, and don't stop. One of my favorite quotes by Confucius is, "It doesn't matter how long it takes you to do something, as long as you never stop."
Thank you, Dr. Joe. Well, you heard it from the teacher and the nurse on her perspective of what we can do to make our voices heard. Now we have an advocate, an activist in the room, very active in the political arena. Tiana, I'm wondering, what else could we do to ensure our voices are heard from the experiences of Black individuals with disabilities?
Well, we must have a seat at the table and be recognized as leaders. When I stepped up to run for president of Missouri Women's Political Caucus, it was because I wanted to ensure that voices of women of color was heard from the top down. I'm the first African American, and I take the work seriously that I'm doing currently. There has been some changes that will make sure that individuals with disabilities are represented since I have been state president. I am the only state president with a disability nationally. I show up to the meetings. Right now, our national is going to redo their website to become ADA compliant because I've been showing up and making noise for people with disabilities. It makes me proud that after being a member for over 10 years, that I am now leading and this is happening. So we just gotta show up. We just gotta make some noise all the time. Bring a chair, right, J-Mo? Bring a chair, bring a chair.
Show up and make some noise. Can I get some people in the room to make some noise? And bravo to all of you for showing up. Even those of you that are in the room, whatever challenges you may have faced, even getting from your home into being in here tonight, although we know that the Missouri History Museum has made itself extremely accessible to all, but that does not account for what it took for you to get from your front door into this seat, and even those of you that are joining us online. And so we know that the Missouri History Museum has become accessible through the work of the Missouri Historical Society and their Department of Disability, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility. Rush, I'm wondering what else or what role could the Missouri Historical Society play in addressing the intersectionality between Black history, race, and disability?
Keep true to your challenges people face with disabilities. Affirm that everyone deserves to be accepted and included for who they are in a meaningful way.
Meaningful way sounds very intentional.
Yes.
It sounds like it's something that we actually have to sit down, put thought, and work together on to do that in a meaningful way. And so with that, I'm also wondering how much more can we promote awareness and understanding the unique experiences of people with disabilities in the Black community and what society at a large has to say about those experiences and what we can all do to create those experiences and share those with others in a very inclusive way, fostering that hope and making it more accessible to people with disabilities while also celebrating diversity and their contributions. And in doing so, I'm wondering, as I look at our time together, one of the things that we wanted to ensure is that not only did you hear from us as a panel, but that we had the opportunity to also hear from you. And so we wanted to save time before we came to the end of our program to hear from you on what else questions might you have. How can individuals, communities, and organizations make a difference when it comes to people with disabilities, and especially moving forward and raising awareness within the Black community? And so before I open the floor up to our audience, for those of you that have questions, and I'm looking there, okay, there she is. She'll bring the mic to you if you just raise your hand if you have a question as we wrap up with the panel. Are there any other remarks that you all would like to share about how we could collaborate as a community, as our audience? If you have a question that you'd like to ask, just raise your hand and I will begin to call you and the microphone will come to you.
Yes, I can share. First, I want to recognize someone that's taken a lot of time with me. She's here tonight, my mentor of 10 years, Councilwoman Days. Can you raise your hand, please? Councilwoman Days has, the reason I kept her for this question is because she's who I learned how to get in the community, keep going, keep showing up, when I stopped showing up, she would call me and say, go back and show up again. That used to be the hardest thing for me. A little bit of tough love there. But you got to go in those places and you got to tell them, you know, talk about events and talk about having events with people with disabilities. And when you see organizations having events or having things and they're not thinking about people with disabilities, say something, even if you don't have a disability.
Oh, I like that, Tiana. Even if you don't have a disability, we can all speak up and speak out. Thank you. Rush, any final closing remarks from you?
No, I'm okay, thanks.
Dr. Joe, any final closing remarks before we allow the audience to ask questions?
Well, you know, I always have something to say.
Sure.
Well, I'll be very brief. I just think it is important that we join organizations. I found in St. Louis that many organizations for those with disabilities don't know each other. You know, there's Foundation for the Blind, there's Paraquat, there's StarCom, and sometimes if I ask other blind colleagues about these other agencies, they don't know who they are. So my thought is to join these organizations, speak up, and try and bring them together. Let them know that there's somebody else out there doing what they're doing, and maybe together you can do it even better. Thank you.
Thank you very much to our panelists. Now to the audience. Are there any questions from the audience? There, I see a couple of hands down here in the front.
I'm coming to the front. I saw one person here. Sorry, y'all.
Good evening, everyone. So my question to the panel is this. I know some of us got different experience. What about when a tragedy happened in the Black community and you become disabled? So for myself, I am the founder of AMP Connections, and I'll be hosting a Lost and Limb barbecue in June the 15th in Brothers Park, and everybody is welcome to join us. But I became an amputee, and through a tragedy, when you become disabled, what are the emotional support? How do you guide somebody to get that emotional support even through the beginning stages or even at the stage I am now? My incident didn't happen in September of 2021.
Thank you.
The emotional support, there are different organizations out there, such as Paraquat. We all have a gym. It just depends on your disability and how you acquired it. But then also, since I work with a lot of people with bullet-related injuries, there's another organization called BRIC, and they offer support systems like that too. And just also, if you're in the hospital, just depending on your situation, there's a lot of just people with similar disabilities like you, and just talking to people who've been through it and things like that. That's how a lot of people, you know, get the support that they need.
Thank you very much for that question. I know we had a question down here in the front. Raise your hand if you had a question. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you all for your comments tonight. I know that as a person with a disability myself, I understand some of those challenges, but I want to flip the coin for a moment and I want to ask, when each of you have felt fully embraced in your full identity as a Black person, as a disabled person, as you in your full identity, can you kind of share an experience, a time when you have felt recognized and embraced and accommodated, and kind of what were the magic ingredients in those moments?
Great
That's
question.
an excellent question. And I was thinking as you were talking that it may not be very easy to find that place. Embracing I think the place to start is to accept yourself, embrace yourself, tell yourself every day, thank you. Tell yourself every day that you are smart, that you know what you're doing, you know what your goals are, and that you can achieve no matter what. So you asked for an experience in my own life. I think it was difficult at first. I tried to hide my blindness, especially at work, because I thought I'd lose my job if they found out I couldn't see very well. And finally, it got to the point where I had to acknowledge it. The place where I feel embraced for myself, my identity, the intersectionality in my life is with my family. They support me, they help me, and they help me do everything. I cannot read anything, no matter what size the print, and so I get letters in the mail, I take a picture of it and send it to my daughter, and she'll read it to me. So you embrace your own self first, and don't stop, just hang in there. Thank you.
Yeah, I probably would say the same thing. My children, they definitely have taught me to be tough. They're uncut. They're here tonight. They're over there. Sometimes I don't want to hear it from them, but and even now they're grown, it gets worse. I'll say my friends too, and I'm gonna throw in there having real people that don't come from the same background as you, like really, really believe in you. People that's got way more than you, that come sit on the couch and talk to you, where you wonder, like, what do we have in common, you know? And you find that it's people that, you know, they believe in you, and they don't just talk a bunch of bull crap to you. You know, they tell you stuff like, this is what you can do to be successful, and you listen, and it works. So that's pretty much been my experience with that.
My experience is, okay, all right, my experience is, of course, friends and family, but people who are not friends and family. I remember going to a music festival. It was at a campground, to the point where I have struggling with my wheelchair to get around. The people who organized it, seeing us, this campground was in Ohio, so they asked us what could we do. To the point they got mini scooters shipped in from Detroit to Ohio for me and people who had disabilities. Then after the festival was over with, they had a forum, was asking, well, what can we do for people who have disabilities? And me and a few other people said maybe have a platform. Sure enough, the very next year they had a disabled platform for us. So that was really good, and that's one of my experiences being disabled, when someone embraced me who was not family.
Thank you very much for sharing those stories. Being a person with disabilities can be very isolating, and so creating community is so important in surrounding yourself and finding others that may share your experiences, so that you're not also feeling so alone in those areas of acceptance. It looks like we have one more question, and then we will wrap up this portion of the program.
What do you want kids to know about your experience?
What do you want kids to
them
know about your experience? From the
Was
Never give
the
up.
question, can you repeat?
What would you
What
want?
do you all want
want to
us to know about your experience? About your experience.
I think that we should strive to teach our children to accept others, and to recognize that a disability is an ability turned around. and that we can achieve anything. I especially think about children who are blind or having some disability. And a lot of support is needed for them, and particularly as they grow older and start schools. Schools now have programs that are designed specifically for those with disabilities. And one other thing I'll just throw in, I had intended to say, that not all disabilities are visible. And so you can be disabled and somebody looks at you and thinks you're fine. I have people all the time, if they don't see me with my white cane, they think I'm fine. And I'd say, well, I really can't see that. And they look at me really strange, like, what do you mean you can't see it or you can't read it? And so I don't explain anymore. I used to explain my disability, and now I don't. I just claim it. And you should do the same and encourage your children.
To what she said. I'll add for kids, make sure your kids are around other people that have disabilities. Make sure they understand. I will say my children have got suspended from school and everything for taking up for kids with disabilities. And then when their mom has to go to the school and she has a disability, the teacher's like, oh, whoa, okay, well, I get it now. So you gotta you gotta make sure that even they have now, where they didn't have it much when I was younger, like Barbies with disabilities and things like that. Gift your children. They don't have to have a disability for you to, share those things with them, so they know when they see someone and they're not just looking at them like, no, what's wrong with them? And a person with a disability definitely wants to be like asked, other than you assume, like you see, you're like, oh, this happened, and just ask them. Just walk up and say, hey, I see your, and if they don't want to tell you, they won't tell you. They'll say, look, I don't want to talk about that. But I think most of us, wouldn't you say, Rush, we want to talk about what happened to us. We don't want you just to assume.
And I would say is, kids are just kids. You will learn that. I went to a program, and there was a lot of kids that had disabilities. And they were the same kids as a non-disabled kid. They wanted to play, some were bad. But it was fun just seeing, all the kids just playing. And then you see, and if you go to school with a person who has a disability as a kid, you will understand that, they're probably getting the same kind of things that you get into. And it's funny kind of seeing them ride on the back of someone's power wheelchair. And the teacher's like, hey, don't do that. But to the disabled kid and the kid they're friends with, they're just having fun. So just be accepting and just be accepting, and they're just fun, and have fun playing with kids of all ages and all disabilities.
Thank you very much. And as I wrap up this panel moderation, one of the things that I took time to do specifically when we started the program was read the full bios of those that you see before you, so that you would have an opportunity to hear from them, or hear their stories, hear their experiences, hear their accomplishments, hear their ability to problem solve, hear their abilities to achieve, hear their abilities to overcome, to break down the stigma that comes with disability as being less than, or not, cannot, will not able. And so here you were able to hear from these amazing professionals, Tiana McGraw, Rush Wilkerson, and Dr. Joe Grove, exactly what it looks like, feels like, in the experiences of people with disabilities, and I as well. And so with that, I want to thank you all for joining us this evening and having part of this conversation and sharing these experiences with us, with the intersection of Black history and the disability rights movement. Also wanting to acknowledge and thank Hannah Ayele, for the many Zoom calls, phone calls, text messages, making sure that we were all ready to go and prepared. I also want to thank Starkloff Disability Institute for sponsoring tonight's event for us. I also want to ensure, yes, absolutely. creating confident professional disabled individuals. And so also want to thank the Missouri Historical Society's Disability Inclusion, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility Division for creating this entire program and organizing it for us. And I want to thank all of you for being here, for being part of the conversation and sharing in this experience.
Well, friends, our time has come to an end this evening, and I just appreciate each and every one of you all for attending. I want to thank our musicians again, our moderator, and our panelists, as well as our interpreters. And again, the Starclough Disability Institute for sponsoring today's event. If you have not already completed that survey, we really do read each and every one of them to make our improvements to our programming. So please do fill out that survey. Again, if you're not a member of MHS, you can always visit our website to become a member of MHS. And this is our African American History Initiative event. We also have the African American History Initiative Community Circle, which is a membership program specifically for the African American History Initiative. So you're also able to become a member of that as well. Again, thank you so much for your time this evening, and have a wonderful night.